Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please email me directly. I am tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today we're discussing a gorgeous and rare watch that launched in 2020. Well, back up a little because the third generation Vacheron Constantin Overseas came out in 2016, and that was the year the Perpetual calendar launched. But the Perpetual calendar skeleton didn't launch until 2020, and this is the Perpetual calendar ultra thin skeleton in 5N red gold. 41.5 millimeters in diameter. The watch is 8.3 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 49 millimeters. And you can see one of the unique features of the ultra thin models like this and the 2000V. It's that the bracelet pulls straight down out of the lugs, whereas on the other models, it has a stiffness and a fight and a flare. It won't pull straight down. It wants to expand outward. There's a lack of flexibility. These ultra thin models have a bracelet that is super flexible and will pull down around a tiny wrist. Let's throw it on the wrist and get a quick sense of how it fits, because it's a broad watch, but a flat watch. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. You can see it fits well. The edges of my wrist are far outboard of the ends of the watch, so you can see that the bracelet curls out and over rather than pulling straight down. So you can see I could probably wear this watch even if my wrist were as small as 15 centimeters in circumference, because I've got a little bit of clearance on either side, and it goes without saying. Do you think that would fit underneath the cuff? Speaks for itself. Taking a look at, let's do one more shot. Let's do over the top just so you have that perspective as well. The bracelet's a lovely piece, a couple of great features. The third generation Overseas includes a quick release function on its straps and bracelets that allows you to use your fingernail to remove the bracelet. Now, the watch also comes with two straps, one in leather and one in rubber. It comes with a separate clasp that can be used with those straps, so you get a lot of accessories. A very easy thing to refit just like that. And then we'll take a look, and you can see that there's a micro adjustment built in on each side of the clasp. So you have that 1.5 millimeters of sleeved telescoping micro adjustment, so you can fine tune the fit. You'll also find that every single link on both sides of the bracelet removable. So you have the flexibility of being able to remove every single link, including the half-size link, to get a good fit, and you will get a good fit. The detail is excellent. Look at the polished bevel down the edge. Look at the sharp, polished internal profiles of these links. You can see the Maltese cross motif, which is the symbol of the company. It's present on the crown, and it's present in a form on the center of the bracelet. The bracelet does taper down from its integration with the lugs. The Overseas was designed back in 1996 when the first one bowed by Dino Modolo and Vincent Kaufmann, but they were working on the basic design conventions set by Jörg Heisek on his 1977 Vacheron 222 sports watch. So the Overseas grew out of the 222, and that's where the tonneau case and the integration of the bracelet come from. Polished faces outboard, satin tops. We have a twin trigger clasp that is a non-sequential close. Either side can close first. You have to press both triggers to open it up, so it has the kind of security you would want on a heavy and expensive sports watch. You could see that Maltese cross. Once again, it's everywhere. Rolling around to the case. The case flank is polished, the lug hoods are satinated, and then there's this expanding bevel that swells over the ends of the lugs and continues down their shoulders. The watch is 50 meters water resistant, and unlike a lot of the other Overseas of the current generation, it features a push-down rather than a screw-down crown. I recommend this watch for splash and rain exposure only. Yes, it's 50, but with the push-down crown, I advise you to consider it more like a 30-meter water-resistant watch. We have a little plinth here that sits underneath the bezel. That's the change from the first two generations of the Overseas. It is satinated on its top and polished on its face. The bezel also looks like a wing of the Maltese cross. It's media blasted internally and then polished externally. The dial has been exquisitely skeletonized. Unlike a lot of skeleton watches, though, it's fairly easy to tell the time at a glance, and it is quite well loomed, so no problems in that regard. we have a lovely moon phase that features an opaque sapphire at its base, so even when the moons are not visible, they are at least apparent. We have rose gold hands and indices, high grade. The Perpetual calendar system doesn't need to be reset until the year 2100. Leap years, irregular length months, not a problem. The moon phase, once set, is good for 122 years from the point you set it. And you'll note that the module being visible and skeletonized is an artisanally decorated part of the dial of the watch, and it is beautiful. We have black and blue printing on the silver-white track outboard. Nice to have this removable system here so we can take the bracelet out of the way and look at the movement. The third generation overseas was the first to have Geneva hallmark movements and display casebacks, and that continues here. In addition to the 50-meter water resistance rating, the watch is 25,000 ampere per meter anti-magnetic. So there's a soft iron-based paramagnetic ring around the movement that helps to grab and channel the magnetic field lines away from the balance, the escapement, and the hairspring. The movement inside is finished to Geneva hallmark quality. You can see on the balance cock that Geneva seal, but since mid-2012, it has been a full watch test of the quality of a timepiece fully assembled, not just the finish of a movement. So the watch, as well as the movement, are Geneva seal. The rotor has been exquisitely skeletonized, internally beveled, satinated on its top, and then everything here has a nickel anthracite coating. The movement has a 22-karat mass, which I love to see because these days a lot of brands are giving you 21, 18, or even a rose gold-plated tungsten mass. Not the case here, 22-karat gold. You'll also appreciate that there's another Maltese cross inside of this rotor. Now, the movement is distantly from Jaeger-LeCoultre. It debuted in 1967. I'm going to take the whole bracelet off here so you can more easily see it. It debuted in 1967 as the JLC 920. It was designed on commission for Patek, Vacheron, and Audemars Piguet, and only ever used by them. No other brand has used it. JLC has never cased it up in a JLC watch. The 920 here is highly modified and finely finished. It is a unidirectional winder with a 40-hour power reserve, a very vintagey 19,800 vibration per hour beat rate. It's been upgraded with a Gyromax-style free-sprung balance for durability. It's adjusted in 5 positions, pivots on 36 jewels, and what you can't see here is that this rotor, which is a beryllium ring that runs all the way around 360 degrees, it sits on 4 ruby roller bearings that allow that rotor, that full ring, because it only has the mass on one side, it's a ring. See that? Those ruby bearings hold the rotor and the mass, and you're able to shrink them as close to the bridges and the plates as possible with zero risk of them coming in contact with the bridges and the plates. That allows this base movement to be only slightly over 2 millimeters thick. It was the thinnest automatic movement in the Holy Trinity arsenal at the time it debuted in the late 60s. And I believe to this day it's only approximately 2.4 millimeters thick, which is quite impressive. The module obviously adds a little bit of thickness, but you're still talking well under 7 millimeters with the two of them combined. Now, taking a look at the bridges, you can see they've been evacuated and then internally beveled. So the skeletonization has been met with polishing and beveling. All the screw heads are black polished. You could see that there is a fascinating treatment, satination across the bridges rather than Côte de Genève. Everything you see here that is silver is actually steel. So you can see the steel components have been finished, including an open barrel and an open ratchet wheel. And it is an absolute pleasure to look at. Still a very good timekeeper, this old 920. Vacheron, of course, has its own name for this movement. It calls it the 1120 QP. And, of course, the watch is fully skeletonized on both sides. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.